Mastemon is back in BT23, and with all the new support cards, it is now stronger than ever. Being able to DNA with angewomon and ladydevimon together, you get to control the security of both yours and the opponent's, trash theirs at the same time, and then flood the board with angels as your alliance and chunk down your opponent's security to win games. By utilizing all the different control tools, that's how you dictate the tempo and the speed of the game into your favor, and the best way to do this is to combo it with the yellow base. So let's begin with the deck profile, as I'll talk about the Digi cards with 4 copies of the BT14 Tokamon. Whenever a card is added to your security, you get to draw 1, and that is exactly the reason why we want to synergize it mainly with the Patamon from BT14 as the main source of engine to help us Digivolve into our level 4s, which are going to be Gatomon for free. And that is exactly how we do it with its starter main phase effect to search for our security to evo into a yellow vaccine for free, and then adding back a card from our hand into the bottom stack. By going into our level 4s for absolutely 0 cost, that is exactly how we also get to gain a memory back with its inherit effect at the same time. I'm running one of each of the Floodgate with Pillowmon and Tapermon. The cool thing with Tapermon is that it is a holy beast, so it's actually searchable with some of your other effects together in this deck, but it also prevents your opponents from gaining memory except for Tamer effects. As for Pillowmon, it stops both players from playing any Digimon by effects. You guys might be wondering, playing Pillowmon may seem counterintuitive just because this deck does focus a lot on playing by effects as well. Well, that's because to counter the meta such as Hoodia, Royal Knights, Jesmon, all these decks play Digimon by effects as well, and in order to stop them, you can actually buy yourself a turn and then potentially go for lethal plays in the following. The best timing to utilize Pillowmon is to play it as the very last card before your turn ends, after you exhausted all your own effects that play Digimon. Afterwards, when the turn comes back to you, you got several ways to get rid of it. Either you chip away at security and hope for it to get deleted, Digivolve on top of it so you're no longer floodgated, or even use promo Mastemons to tuck it away. And then to round off the rest of the rookies, I'm running 4 copies of the BT16 Ukamon, mainly just to help us search, also pushing out and hatching our eggs, grab any pieces that we need, and mainly gonna find our Patamon so we can set it up as soon as possible. And now let's begin talking about our level 4s, starting with Gatomons, which you definitely want to run 4 copies of the one from the Mastemon starter deck still. With its on-play effect, you can grab 2 hits of 1 purple and yellow Digimon as well, and most importantly, it helps you reduce your Digivolution cost to get into your angewomon and ladydevimon by only paying 1 memory. And with that, you still get to utilize the inherit effect of end of turn to help you DNA both your angewomon and ladydevimon to climb into Mastemon. The fact that this card has come such a long way through so many sets and still being one of the key anchor pieces of Mastemon is really awesome. As for the other Gatomon, I'm running 4 copies of the one from EX6, which is our second researcher to help fetch us any pieces that we need, as well as Mirai on top of it. This has a lower play cost of 4, but you also get it when Digivolving, which is best utilized together with Patamon as well. Other than that, when you attack, you get to DP reduce your opponent's Digimon by 2000 just to weaken bodies so that can swing over them or get rid of opponent's Floodgate rookies. Next, I'm taking in 1 copy of the GeoGreymon from BT13. I still think this card is just absolutely goated, especially when you synergize together with Patamon and you go for the crazy high roll combo so that you Digivolve from security and then you research your security to play out a potential Tamer for free. Establishing any kind of mirror on the board as soon as possible is this deck's #1 priority, so you can constantly gain your values for further combos in the later turns. And that is why, as long as you're still running the BT14 Patamon engine, this is one of the cards I still highly recommend no matter what. Other than that, whenever your yellow Tamers suspend, you can also delete your opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less. Once again, great for getting rid of Floodgate rookies, or you can even pop slightly bigger bodies alongside with DP reduction. That's it for level 4s, and now let's talk about level 5s, which is actually going to be our highest Digimon count with the deck in terms of ratios, because you want to mainly see them so that you can DNA into Mastemon. Let's begin talking about angewomon first with the newest one from BT23. When you play or Digivolve this card, you get to grab the top card of your security to your hand and then recover 1 if you have 3 or fewer. The cool thing is that you still get to recover 1 even if you had 0 security to begin with. Aside from just Digivolving into this card, you now have the additional luxury to reduce its play cost by 3 as long as you have a ladydevimon or Mirai present on the board to begin with. That way you get to bring out this card with only 4 memory, which is absolutely value. Aside from that, with its inherit effect, it gives you alliance so that you can go for your aggressive plays and deal as much damage as possible into your opponent's security in order for you to win, which is your main offensive strategy. As of right now, I'm still playing at least 1 copy of the angewomon from EX6 just to help me establish a Mirai if I don't have one present on the board just yet. If I do have have a Mirai out already, I get to give one of the opponent's Digimon security attack -2 lasting until the end of their turn. Itself also has barrier and also having the exact same inherit effect as our other angewomon to provide alliance, which this one does have a condition of angel or 3-grade angel trait, but Mastemon generally is an angel trait anyways, so you're always going to be getting that no matter what. And then for the BT11 angewomon, I'm still playing 2 copies of this one just to search through our security to grab any pieces that we need, whether it be a ladydevimon or Mastemon, in order to go for our DNA combos. Afterwards, we get to recover 1 into our security. It also has another effect that we get to gain a memory whenever we play out a Mirai or ladydevimon once per turn, which really gives us memory control in our turn whenever we need to go for combo plays. And with its inherit effect, we get to give all of our angel, archangel, or fallen angel Digimon blocker as long as we have a purple Digimon in play to begin with, which we'll always do because Mastemon always has the color purple itself. That's it for angewomons. Now let's talk about ladydevimons, which I'm running 4 copies of the new one from BT23. Very similar to the other angewomon, where you can reduce its play cost as long as you have a angewomon or Mirai present on the board already to begin with, so that you can play it out for 4 costs only. When you play or digivolve into this card, you instantly get to delete one of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. Itself is a blocker, and its inherit effect provides a scapegoat unconditionally to our Mastemon stack, so we can always keep it protected as long as it would be deleted other than by our own effects. And for the BT11 ladydevimon, I'm also running 2 copies of that, just so we can grab back any pieces that we need from the trash in the later stage of the game by trashing a card away from our hand. And just like the BT11 angewomon, we also get to gain a memory whenever we play out a angewomon or Mirai as well. And with its inherit effect, we get to give all of our angel, archangel, or fallen angels retaliation during the opponent's turn, as long as we have a yellow Digimon on the board already to begin with, which Mastemon itself already is too. And speaking of Mastemon, this is where I'm going to transition and start talking about our level 6s, which I'll begin with the 3 copies of the promo one. When you digivolve this card, you instantly recover 1, but ideally you want to DNA digivolve to get the bonus effect so that you can place 1 other Digimon or Tamer to the top or bottom security stack. This can either be your opponent's or even your own, so that you can then trash the top card of your opponent's security. This is by far one of the best removal effects to get rid of anything on your opponent's side of the board. Since this effect will always trash your opponent's security, you can always choose to push for more aggression and damage by placing your own cards back into your own security, and you can always synergize it together, especially if it has security effects to begin with. But that's not all. When you digivolve or attack with this Mastemon, you get to trash your own security to place something back from your trash that is 6000 DP or less once per turn. This can be your starter deck Gaudomon to go for more searching, or it can even be any of your angewomons or ladydevimons, so you can utilize their on-play effects once again. Not only you gain a ton of advantage when you digivolve into this Mastemon, you also constantly gain value as you attack with it turn after turn. And that's exactly why I choose to mainly focus on this Mastemon in comparison to all the other ones. And this is where we'll talk about the other one from BT23, which is the secret rare, which I'm currently running 2 copies of. Itself has barrier as well as partition specifically for angewomon and ladydevimon, but one thing I find interesting is that it doesn't have a color requirement. This card alone is also really good at accelerating your win condition, because once you digivolve into it, you can play out a body from hand or trash for free, and as long as this Digimon stack has 2 or more of the same levels, which you usually do as long as you're DNA digivolving with angewomon and ladydevimon, you get to trash the top cards of both players' security until they have 3 left. By setting your opponent's security down to 3, there are times where you can actually follow up and finish the game off in the same turn, which I'll show you guys how it works later in the combos too. But that's not all. This card also has a all turns effect. Whenever a security stack is removed, whether it be yours or your opponent's, you get to place 1 Digimon as the bottom security card. Other than working very well together with this Mastemon's when digivolving effect, the fact that this is all turns once per turn, it puts a lot of pressure onto your opponents if they ever try to deal damage towards you, because that means they're going to have to give up 1 Digimon in order to do so. Or on the flip side, if you're ever able to manipulate the security during your opponent's turn, you still get to get rid of 1 of their Digimon at the end of the day. And it's exactly where we can transition into the Mastemon Ace from EX6, which I'm only running 1 copy of. You can blast DNA digivolve into this card as long as you have a angewomon or ladydevimon present on the board to begin with, and the other in your hand, so they can counter against your opponent's attacks. By digivolving it into it, you get to play a level 5 or lower Digimon card with Angel, Archangel, or Fallen Angel from your hand or trash for free. And as long as your DNA digivolve, you get to place 1 other Digimon, which can be your own or your opponent's, to the bottom of the owner's security stack, and then specifically trash your opponent's security until they have 4 left. Once again, a fantastic removal tool, but also ultimately giving you a counterplay against your opponents, because as long as you have either a Angewomon or ladydevimon on the board present, you're immediately threatening this potential ace against them during their turn. And then to round off for the rest of level 6s, I teched in 1 copy of Dominimon from EX6, which is incredibly useful in this deck as well. Since you play out your level 5s off your Mastemon usually, and whenever you go into Angewomon, you get to digivolve this card on top. afterwards you get to play out another potential angewomon from your security for free. Aside from that, it mainly provides you that protection to all of your angel-related Digimon. But keep in mind, that is specifically for angewomon or Mastemon only, since it only sees angels and archangels, whereas ladydevimon is only a fallen angel, which doesn't meet the Dominemon's requirements. But other than that, just by keeping your own Mastemons and angewomons healthy and alive on the board, it makes it even more difficult for your opponents to play through your board as you control the whole momentum of the game. And to wrap up with all of our Digimon cards, with our level 7s, I'm running one copy of Ruin Mode. Since all of our level 6s are either purple or yellow, we can always easily just Digivolve into this guy to finish our turn, just to lock the opponents out for the entire turn on their side, and then afterwards we finish them off in the following. The nice thing about this deck is that you also have several other choices when it comes to level 7s, aside from just Ruin Mode, which I'll also mention in the tech choices later on. Now let's talk about our Tamers, which most of them are going to be Mireis. Let's start off with the EX6 one, which I'm running 3 copies of. If you ever play out Gatomon, angewomon, or ladydevimon, you get to gain a memory, or specifically when you play out Gatomon, you have the choice to evo into a angewomon or ladydevimon from the trash with a reduced cost of 1. By combining this effect together with the starter deck Gatomon, you get to climb up into your level 5 for free. Also, just like the inherent effect of the starter deck Gatomon, it gives you the end of turn to DNA both your Digimon together into Mastemon, and this is always really useful if you ever find yourself not having that particular starter deck Gatomon in the stack to begin with. And then I'm running 2 copies of the BT11 Mirei. Just being able to gain a memory at the start of every turn unconditionally is always great to allow you to play more cards. And with its secondary effect, whenever you Digivolve into an angewomon or ladydevimon, as long as that's the only one Digimon you have on your side, you get to play out the opposite counterpart for free from your hand by suspending her. That way you always have instant access into a Mastemon DNA play at a pinch, which is really good in the early games to help you climb up quickly, or to also make comeback plays once your opponent has cleared your board. And then for the BT23 Mirei, I'm running 3 copies of, just to help us have more cyclability, just to trash away 1 card and draw 2, and most importantly, that is just to help us play out both our other 2 Mireis, which are all 4 costs and above. Lastly, for the final Tamer, which is not a Mirei, I'm running 1 copy of the BT14 TK, which is limited down to 1, but being able to set up our security and manipulate anything that we want right in the beginning is really good to help us set up with our Patamon. And since we constantly gain security off our Mastemon effects when we DNA, we're going to be able to gain additional memory, which this Tamer is going to give us a ton of return the sooner we establish on the board. And then lastly, to round off the rest of our deck profile with our option cards, I'm running 2 copies of Amber Memory Boost, just to give us more searching in the early stages and also gaining memory with its delay effect. Tech choices and other cards that you guys can also include in the Mastemon deck. Instead of playing the Tokumon egg, you can focus more within the archetype by playing the Nyaromon egg from BT15. That way you also gain additional memory manipulation as you attack by trashing your own security. And by including Nyaromon, it gives you access into the BT16 Salamon, where you can utilize his on-play or starter main phase effect to help you climb into a Gatomon for reduced cost of 1. You can also play the one from EX6 to help you gain additional memory at the starter main phase as long as you have a purple Digimon or Tamer on the board. Or you can even play the one from BT15 to help you cycle through your security stack at the starter main if you ever need to. Otherwise, another Digi-Egg engine you can opt in to play is the BT21 Yellow Koromon alongside with the EX4 Agumon that is both red and yellow, which is mainly intended for Shine Greymon. How this works is that you get to draw additional cards whenever you suspend your yellow Tamers, which all of your Mireis are, and with the starter main phase of the Agumon, you get to gain additional memory and draw additional cards as well with the same effect as the Koromon. Other Floodgate rookies I can also include in this deck would be Cutemon to prevent your opponents from reducing any Digivolution costs, or even Psychmon to prevent them from reducing any play costs. Even though Psychmon is a purple Digimon, which you can't Digivolve on top of your yellow eggs, since Mastemon can play out any purple Digimon after all, this can be useful at times depending on the matchup and the meta. There's also the BT15 Gatomon, which I'm highly considering including in the deck as well, just because if you ever trash it from security, you can play out for free. You also get to gain additional memory whenever your own security stack is removed from as well. And it works very well together with Patamon, just because that effect sees it as you Digivolve it from the security stack too. Aside from that, getting additional access to barrier other than just relying on the BT23 Mastemon to have it is also very nice. Sometimes I feel like I want to take the aggression attacks even further, so I've considered including the BT11 Devimon, which itself can gain rush and retaliation as long as we have a yellow Digimon or Tamer in play to begin with, which we always do because we're going to be playing out with Mastemon's effect. Another angewomon that I've also considered playing is the Ace one from BT15, just to give us a little bit more security manipulation and DP reduction for additional removal removal, but also we're helping us recover security whenever we're low so that we can stay alive for a little longer. Another yellow level 6 that you guys can also include is Mastemon, which you can lock down your opponents with a blanket security -1 effect that lasts until the end of their turn. And by buying yourself that extra turn, that's when you can finish them off in the following. Similar concept as to why I run Ruin mode. But one really important thing to keep in mind is that even though Mastemon itself looks like an angel, it does not have any of those traits to help you synergize together with the rest of the deck. Other level 7s to include instead of Ruin mode could be Archetype from BT9, just to DNA 2 of your Masties together so that can wipe your opponent's boards and also recover a ton if you're ever running on low, but it's mainly there to help you finish games off so that can DNA once again and attack if you ever can keep your turn. Aside from that, another really cool one that I've also thought of is actually AVAULT from EX8. That is because this deck can also DNA Digivolve into it with 2 Mastemons. You can D-Digivolve 3 on your opponent's Digimon and also give them a blanket 6k for this particular turn. Although you're not going to be able to use this DNA effect to play out Nightmare Soldiers back from the trash, but you can still utilize this all turns effects as long as another Digimon is deleted, which you might remove on your opponent's side. You get to trash your opponent's top security and then swing for game. Other additional yellow tamers that you guys can also include aside from just Mirai would be the Memory Setter TK and Kari. With TK, you can search your security stack, and with Kari, you always get to gain a memory back whenever you add a card to your security stack. And if you're ever able to set one of these tamers up alongside with the BT11 Mirai, you're always going to be playing with 4 memory at the beginning of your every turn. And since Mastemon is a purple deck after all, you guys can always opt in to include Calling from Darkness just to grab any purple pieces that you need back from the trash, which is exceptionally good in the mid and late game stages. Combos and how to play the all-new updated Mastemon deck. Starting with your mulligan hand, you really want to see Patamon. As soon as you see it, that's what you want to get into. If not, use Ukomon to search and filter through your deck and grab the pieces that you need. Ember Memory Boost, as well as the BT22 Mirai to help you grab pieces, as well as hard dropping your Gatomons, both the Star Deck 10 as well as the EX6 to find angewomon and ladydevimon so that you can DNA into Mastemon and start going off with combos and get into whichever Mastemon that you need for specific situations. From there, you manipulate the security by trashing theirs as well as chunking them down along with Alliance to deal damage in order to win your games. For the first combo, I'm going to show you guys how you can climb all the way up from the BT14 Patamon into a Mastemon to finish off your turn, and 1 memory is all you need. We're going to first push out the Patamon and use its starter main effect to go through our security to Digivolve into a Gatomon. Let's just say ideally we actually want to Digivolve into this one from the Star Deck 10. Because by doing so, we're not going to be able to use this on-play effect, but the whole idea is that we gain instant access into a level 4 that can then Digivolve into a level 5 for reduced cost of 2. Finishing off with Patamon's effect, we're going to place a yellow vaccine into our bottom security, and because we did, we get to gain a memory and draw a card off Tokomon Inherit effect as well. Next, we're going to Digivolve into angewomon for reduced cost of 2, so we only pay 1 memory, and using this effect to grab the top card of security, and if we have 3 or fewer, we get to recover 1 back. Now we want to play out ladydevimon, which is going to be the new one, which normally would cost 7, but because we have a angewomon on the board, we get to reduce it by 3, making it 4 costs only. Now we're going to proceed into end of turn using the Gatomon Inherits effect to DNA into any Mastemon that we have in our hand, and depending on what the situation is, we can get into whichever we need to. Let's go for the promo one this time around. To DNA Digivolve with the purple on the top and the yellow on the bottom. One important thing to make sure that you're doing is to follow the color order specifically on the DNA Digivolve requirements. So it asks for the purple one top and then the yellow one on the bottom. When we get into this new promo Mastemon, it has a lot of versatility because it has 2 when Digivolving effects, and you actually get to choose which order they get to activate in. So in some cases, you might want to use the second when Digivolving effect first to get a bit more value and see what you can do from there, and then finish resolving the first when Digivolving effect. So in this case, let's just go ahead and use the first when Digivolving effect to recover 1. Because we DNA Digivolve, we get to send any Digimon or Tamer back to the top or bottom of any owner's security. We can send the opponent's or even our own just to trash the opponent's security. In this case, we don't really want to send our own Mastemon since we have nothing else on the board, so let's just send one of the opponent's Digimon to the bottom of their security stack to trash their top. An important tip is to make sure to remember what Digimon you send to the bottom of opponent's security stack, especially when you go for lethal plays, because sometimes it might matter. And just before we use its second when Digivolving effect, remember that when you DNA Digivolve, all your inherent effects within the stack reset so you get to use them all over again. Since we recovered a security, our Patamon is actually going to gain a memory, and Tokomon, we're going to draw another card. Now using the second when Digivolving effect of Mastemon, by trashing our top security stack, we get to play a purple-yellow Digimon card with 6000 DP or less from our hand or trash for free. Since we trashed an angewomon here, we're just going to play that out. Using its on-play once again, cycle through another security, and if we have another 3 or less, we get to recover 1 here. One of my personal recommendations is always try to end the board with at least a level 5, whether it be angewomon or ladydevimon, because what it does, it applies pressure against your opponents that you potentially might have a Mastemon ace that you can get into and you blast DNA, because if they attack, this is where you can go into it and also further trash additional security cards, tuck away their Digimon, and further disrupt them and counter against their board to gain even more value. For this combo, I want to show you guys how you can utilize both Mireis together once they're set up to instantly also climb into a Mastemon without necessarily needing your Patamon or Tokumon and raising, and 1 memory is also all you need. At the start of turn, you're just going to instantly gain 1 off the BT11 Mirei. Now, we're going to go ahead and play out a Gatomon, which generally can either be the EX6 one or even the older one right here, whichever works. Generally, you just want to be able to climb up and play out a Holy Beast because you can start Digivolving as well. If you play out the older one from the starter deck, you get to be a little bit more memory efficient to pass your opponent with less memory. But in this case, let's just say we play out this EX6 one, utilizing its on play to search and grab cards that we need. For the 4 cost, we're now going to suspend the EX6 Mirei to gain a memory back because we played out a Holy Beast. And then we use its second effect to make sure that we have a angewomon or ladydevimon in the trash that we get to Digivolve into for reduced cost of 2. With that, we're going to put the opponent to 3 memory first, resolving its on play and when Digivolving effect. We get to grab our top security first, and then we get to recover 1 if we have 3 or fewer. In this case, we don't. And now we're going to use Mirei to suspend because we Digivolved into a angewomon and we only have 1 or fewer Digimon. So that means we can play out the ladydevimon for absolutely 0 cost. Normally, if we have the starter deck Gatomon once again, that is when we're going to use the end of turn to DNA. But in these cases, when we don't, this is why it's really nice to have the Mirei with the end of turn doing exactly the same thing. So this time, we're going to DNA and Digivolve into the newer Mastemon, which is the one from BT23. We're going to use this when Digivolving effect first to play out either a angewomon or ladydevimon once again. And then afterwards, since we have 2 levels within the same stack, we get to trash both players' security until there are 3 left. After finishing this effect, Angewomon's on play and the all turns effect of Mastemon kicks in, so you as a turn player get to choose which order you want to go for. Let's just say with Mastemon's all turns effect first, let's tuck away one of the opponent's Digimon back to their security. And then now finishing and resolving off Angewomon's on play effect, we have to grab our top card of security once again, and since now we have 3 or fewer, we can recover 1. And just like the previous combo, the whole idea is to try and set up a Mastemon alongside with one of the level 5s so that you can threat into a Blast DNA Digivolve if the opponent ever attacks into us, just like before. And now I'm going to show you guys the crazy OTK combo that you guys can pull off if you have all the pieces as you climb up. And once again, you only need a BT14 Patamon, 1 memory, and this time we have the BT11 Mirei set up ready to go. Start of turn, we're going to gain a memory off of that, and then we're going to push out the Patamon to use a starter main phase effect to look through our security to Digivolve into the starter deck Gatomon once again ideally, and then we're going to shuffle our security stack off of Patamon's effect and then place something that is yellow vaccine to the very bottom. In this case, we'll place this angewomon, and because we place something back into security, we're going to gain 1 memory and draw a card off the inherited effects. Just like before, we're not going to be able to use the on-play effect of the Gatomon to search, but that's totally okay because the whole point is so that we can Digivolve and reduce our cost that way by 2 to evo into this angewomon for 1. We get to resolve its when Digivolving effect. Let's just say we get to go through the security, the whole motions, and also recover 1 afterwards after grabbing an angel. But that's not really super important in this case because here we're going to suspend Mirei because we only have 1 Digimon on the board. So now we get to play out the other ladydevimon. It is really important to utilize these BT11 ones because they help you gain more memory back, which is really good and important for you to keep your turn in order to pull this off. This angewomon is going to see this ladydevimon being played, so you're going to get to gain a memory here. Now we're going to DNA Digivolve the 2 stacks together into the new Mastemon from BT23 first. Just like before, when DNA Digivolving, we get to play a level 5 or lower. In this case, we'll play out a angewomon here. And because we have the 2 same levels within our stack, we're going to trash the opponent's security and ours down to 3. Just like before, the Mastemon's all turns effect and the angewomon on play effect both trigger at the same time. So this time, I'm actually going to use the angewomon on play effect first to grab our security to our hand, and because we have 3 or fewer, we get to recover 1. Now the newest trigger is going to be Patamon and Tokumon once again because we DNA Digivolve and all of these reset. So we're going to gain a memory and draw a card. We get to send one of the opponent's Digimon back to the security or even our own, but we're not going to do that at all because we want to make sure the opponent is still at 3 security in order to go for the lethal play. So we're going to skip this effect entirely for now. And since we have 4 memory, this is where we get to hard play the new ladydevimon or angewomon vice versa. We want to make sure that we have both of them for reduced cost of 3, so we'll be at 0 memory here. utilizing its on-play effect to delete something level 4 or lower. And then now we're going to DNA into the promo Mastemon. We're going to use this when digivolving effect to recover one first. And then for DNA digivolving, we get to place one Digimon or Tamer to the top or bottom of the security stack to trash the opponents. We're actually going to place our own Mirai to either the top or bottom to trash the opponent's security, so now they only have 2 left. Afterwards, we're going to use the second when digivolving effect to trash our own top security, to then play out a 6000 DP or less from our hand or trash without paying the cost. We're going to play out the ladydevimon out here once again and get to delete something that's level 4 or lower, or otherwise play angewomon or anything that you have an extra body of, which is going to be important. Since the opponent only has 2 security left, this is where we're going to alliance for 2 checks with the Mastemon and the newly played Digimon, just because it doesn't have rush to attack. And once we cleared off the remaining 2 security, they should be at 0, and then we're going to use the BT23 Mastemon to finish it off. The Twilight Angels playmat and dice is now live on the AVAULT store. Make sure to grab them along together with the collection so you get additional memory markers all together. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.